He's the voice of the Edmonton Elks from 880 CHED. Mr. Morley Scott joins us. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good, Dave. How are you?
I am well. Thank you so much for taking some time for us. Been a busy couple of weeks in Edmonton, huh?
Yeah, it sure has. The attitude of the town is a lot different than it was a couple of weeks ago, too, with the announcements they've made over the last couple of weeks. I guess 3 weeks with Chris Morris being named president, former member of the Double E and the Grey Cup champion, and a guy who's been with the Golden Bears for a long time, so well known in the community, knows about the community. And then, of course, this week, Ed Hervey returns as general manager and vice president of football operations. And it's been very busy. It's been pretty exciting, and there was a lot of questions about the Elks going into the offseason, and they're slowly chipping away at the answers right now.
Is it surprising in any way, shape, or form to the direction that the organization is going in regards to the football operations department and those two? Again, we can see it from afar, the very passionate individuals that are returning to the club.
Well, I think the Chris Morris announcement was a big surprise because his name was not mentioned. He was not on anyone's radar for taking that position. That was a bit of a surprise. Ed Hervey, after the announcement of Chris Morris, Ed Hervey was not a surprise. They played together. They know each other very well. They've been friends for a long time. And as soon as Chris Morris was named president, everyone thought, oh, it's probably going to be Ed Hervey. And indeed, a couple of weeks later, he did name Ed Hervey as the Elks' new general manager. So they've worked together before as teammates, and now they're teammates in the front office. So that part of it didn't really surprise anyone. After Morris got the job, I don't think people were surprised at all that Ed Hervey followed.
I know there was some hurt feelings. I don't know if that's the right way to put it when it comes to Ed Hervey. Do you think it was a long conversation in attempting to convince him to come, or do you think it was just mutual? Everybody wanted him, and it just came to a big understanding?
I think it took about 4 seconds after he was offered the job for him to accept it. I don't think there was any hesitation at all. I mean, Ed's still got a home in Edmonton. He still lives here during the off season. He's got lots of friends here. He's got deep roots here. He played here for 8 years. He was a scout here for a couple of years. He was a general manager here for 4 seasons. So there was this is home for Ed, and he really loves this team and he loves this organization. I go back to the game when Hamilton was in Edmonton this year. We had a conversation with him at halftime, just a quick little 2-minute talk, and you could just he was talking about how he didn't like what he saw when he came back, the lack of fans and the way the team had been playing. And so and I walked away from that thinking, man, this guy still cares. He really knows this organization and this community, and he really cares about it still. So I don't think it took any time at all. He was, when he was fired in 2017, it was a whole different structure, right? The president at the time made the decision with the board. There's no more board anymore. That president is gone. There's no more board anymore. It's a privately owned by Larry Thompson. So everybody who I think had issues with Ed in the past are gone now. And Ed comes back and I guess gets the last laugh a little bit.
Morley Scott joins us on the Western Pizza guest hotline tonight. And this may seem odd, but it's a different era of football in Edmonton with a new owner. And you can't just flip a switch, obviously, to determine whether it's changed or not, but are changes coming and become evident in the short amount of time that Larry Thompson has owned the team?
There hasn't been a lot of change that we've seen from the outside. From what I understand, inside they've changed a bit of the structure about how the organization is run. Obviously, they've got a new president, and they're probably going to be hiring some more people in the office. But I think there are changes that are taking place there. I think Chris Morris is kind of just setting up the hierarchy and who does what, and getting his feet on the ground there, because he's walking into a situation that, from everything we believe, was not a good situation, was not a great place to work. And, we heard Ed Hervey use the phrase he wants to come back, and he didn't like how Edmonton had become kind of the laughingstock of the Canadian Football League, and how players were being told, don't go to Edmonton. And that's part of the cleanup that's going on. So I think that's taking place behind the walls in the office. We're not seeing that outwardly. We didn't really see a lot of changes last year when Larry Thompson took over. They were winning more, but that was already kind of underway when Larry took over. One thing we always joke about is that Larry likes fireworks, because they've added a lot of fireworks to the pregame intros since Larry took over. But that was what we saw. There wasn't a lot, but I'm positive positive. There's a lot of changes going on inside the building as they change things around a bit.
As we saw him drive the fire truck around the field, I'm just hoping he's got a good parking spot somewhere near the stadium.
Yeah, indeed. That was a great story. And they turned that into they're selling T-shirts. They sell T-shirts in the store with Larry driving the fire truck into the Calgary bench, and it says Edmonton Elks, we rollin', and that's the T-shirt they're selling. They do one of their games during the commercial breaks. They have a race. Calgary, they got the world's fastest cow, right? We now have the Larry fire truck races where they strap on these portable fire trucks and run down the field to see who wins the race. So it was a little accident that happened, but it's turned into kind of a real great thing around here.
Ed Hervey, when he was named the general manager, he used the term, and just you alluded to it, laughing stock. That raised a lot of eyebrows around the rest of the country. How did it resonate in the community of Edmonton?
I don't think it surprised too many people. Ed's, as he said, he's a straight shooter. He tells you what he thinks, and that's what he says the perception is, and he doesn't like it, and he wants it changed. The Elks have been beat up in this town a lot in the last 3 or 4 years. The product on the field has not been very good. It's not won a lot of games. They've gone through in the last 3 or 4 years. They've gone through 3 or 4 presidents. They've had the changes at general manager. They've had the changes at coach, and it just hasn't worked out. And the fans. There was a disconnect between the fans and the organization. They started to, I think, repair that in the last couple of years a little bit, and I think with the moves they've made is going to help that build that bridge back a little bit more and better. The fans are on board with the moves that have been made for sure, which is rare. The old saying, right? Don't go to the comment section. If you went to the comment section, on the Elks social media, Facebook or whatever, everybody was angry all the time. Doesn't matter what they could announce. They're giving away free hot dogs. Everybody comes to the game, and there would be angry comments in there about the product and about the name change and everything. It's so much better now. I'm just amazed at how much that perception has turned around over the last 3 weeks to a month because of the moves they've made.
Morley Scott is the voice of the Edmonton Elks, joining us on the Western Pizza Hotline. What is the first order of business for the new regime, aside from hiring a head coach, I'd assume is the top priority, and then where do you go from there?
I think, well, obviously you're right. The coach is the first thing that they're looking into, and Ed's already, I believe, started. I don't know if he started formal interviews or not, but I know he's reached out, and we hear reports that he's asked for permission to talk to Rick Campbell, Jordan McSimic, and I think Mark Killam as well. So that process is underway. The other things, I think they're just trying to get everything in order. I think the football part of that team it started to come into place at the end of last year. They won 7 of their last 11 games last year after they made the coaching change. There's 2 games they lost, and after the first 2 losses under Jerry Jackson, they started to turn things around. They're a young team. They got a really good group of young players. They've had they had the Rookie of the Year this year. They had the Western finalists for the Rookie of the Year last year. So they're a team that's very young. They've got a lot of talent. There's a lot of bright spots football-wise on this team. So I don't think that is the biggest issue. It's obviously for Ed Hervey it is, and they're working on that, and they're going to try to improve. I just think the other part of it is just the business side of things, getting back into the community, getting back in the good books of the fans. Like everybody else over the last few years, the economy's been tough, and they have had issues with their sales. And I think they're just trying to build that back up and just become a better organization from top to bottom, football side and business side.
Now, I have to give you full disclosure. I've never had a conversation with Trey Ford. All I know about Trey inside is from listening to what you talked to him about. And to me, it sounds like he is the type of guy that is saying, don't give me anything. I want to earn it. And in your estimation, what has Trey Ford earned, whether it be from the Edmonton Elks or beyond, moving forward?
I think he's earned a shot to get a chance to be a starting quarterback, to get the job and to take and run with it, literally and figuratively. He's the numbers he put up were so good and so impressive. And the difference was, I think last year he really improved as a, he hates the phrase too, as a quarterback, right? Everyone says, well, he's got to learn to be a quarterback, not just the guy who runs with the football. His passing was so much better last year. His ability to read read defenses, his ability to take his time, step up into the pocket, and get through his reads and find the next receiver before he took off and ran. And I think that was vastly improved last year. I really think he's got a chance to be something special in this league. But I also believe somebody's got to take a chance on him. Somebody's got to say, the job is yours, go play. And you know what? If you wet the bed this week, you're playing next week too. So don't play scared. Get out there and do what you do. And I think, he kind of ran into that the last couple of years, that when he didn't play well, he got the hook. And then it was a while before he got back in. And, he was impressive last year. A lot of people talk about he went through some tough things and how he got, yanked in and out of the lineup. But how many quarterbacks in this league get 18 starts in their first 3 years in the Canadian Football League? Not many. Right. And so he got an opportunity to get that experience. You got an opportunity last year to be with a veteran quarterback in the quarterback room, which is something he never had his first 2 years. And I think he learned a lot off McLeod Bethel Thompson. Obviously they play a completely opposite style of game, but doesn't matter what style you play. You got to learn to read defenses. You got to learn to be a pro and be a quarterback. And I think that he got that. Those lessons from McLeod Bethel Thompson, and that made him a better quarterback as well.
Again, from the outside looking in, when it comes to Trey Ford, I wondered at times last year if he was reluctant to run because he wanted to prove to everyone that he could throw the ball. And I thought that he made a statement in doing so. Did you see it that way as well?
I don't know if he was reluctant to run. I think he didn't have to run last year. We were talking about it a couple of weeks ago. We were saying the one thing that he didn't do this year, he didn't run for a touchdown this year, and he threw for more. And he threw, and I think that's a sign of growth for him. Not that he was trying not to, like he was saying, I'm not going to run for a touchdown, I'm going to pass. Instead, he wasn't trying to do that. I just think he didn't have to do that. He still ran and he still made great plays with his feet, but he made plays with his arm usually first. And I think that's the growth we saw in Trey Ford. And he was also hurt a little bit last year, right? He missed some time because of an injury. And I think when he came back, he was not quite 100%. When he came back to play, and I think that's the reason maybe we didn't see him run as much. But again, he didn't have to run because he was hitting receivers with the football.
Okay, so we move on from the quarterback. What else do you need to see the Edmonton Elks take a step forward in to progress, to find themselves in a playoff spot in the Grey Cup conversation moving forward?
I think defensively, they've got to be better. I think, their offense spoke for itself last year with two quarterbacks and with the quarterback controversy that they had around the team. They still put up great numbers. They were still one of the best offenses in the league, in yards, in points per game, in the red zone. They put up some great numbers offensively. Defensively, they got better as the season went along, but the big thing they had trouble with was the big play. They got killed on the big play in games last year. Everything would be going fine, and then they'd be gashed for a 40-yard gain, and late in the game especially, and teams would figure out a way to win one of those close games against them, and they lost many of those last year. So I think that's the biggest improvement they're going to have to make, is on the defensive side of the football.
Okay, before we let you go, it is a Friday. We've been talking about road trips. You're a veteran. You've been on the road a number of times, and you got to pack appropriately when you're going. My truth declaration was that I forgot to pack contact lenses before calling a college football game over at the U of A. Thankfully, it's a good vantage point there, and I only missed half the players. But when you're packing, ever have any nightmares on the road or anything that you should pass along for us to remove our anxiety?
It's funny. Every time I go on a road trip, I sit on the plane sometimes and think, okay, what did I forget? It was weird this year because we had traveled commercially before, but Dave Campbell and I this year moved on to the team charter. And so we're only going for one night. Usually we went for 3. We're only going for one night. So you didn't take nearly as many clothes. You didn't take, and the first couple of trips were tough because I got a little tiny suitcase. I'm thinking, everything can't be in there. I got to be missing something. So it was a lot of anxiety at the start of the year for sure. And the thing that I learned, doesn't matter what you forgot, wherever you're going, they sell it there.
Except prescription contact lenses.
Yes, exactly right. Exactly right. I did do one game. I forgot to bring my sponsor list sheet, and I ended up the entire game reading it off my phone, which was very, very difficult. So that's one thing I forgot one time, which is tough. But yeah, like I say, as long as it's something that you can't reproduce, just go out and buy it. If you need a pair of underwear, just go out and buy it. If you need a new pair of pants, just go out and buy it. I had one time we went to Winnipeg and I had a liquid kind of explode in the suitcase and wrecked a pair of pants. I had to go out and buy a pair of pants for the game the next night. So it's all fixable, right?
True. I'll go with that. Morley Scott, thank you so much for taking some time for us here on this Friday. Again, really appreciate what you do. And like I say, I try to model myself after you. Great call on Ched, and we look forward to catching up to you next season.
Thanks, Dave. Really appreciate that. Have a great weekend.